It's the Remedial Bob Class podcast. Travis and George and Dan. Through the Remedial Bob Class podcast. Take your seat. It's time to begin.
All right, welcome to the Remedial Film Class podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
And George just got back from an all-expense-paid trip to Mars. Or was it all in his RAM chips? What do you think, George? Did we watch Total Recall, or do you just remember watching Total Recall?
I never thought of that.
Ooh, 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 twist.
It's all a dream.
This entire day might have been a dream.
This is true.
This entire year. My entire life.
It's all blur.
Shoot.
We watched The Matrix 1990 edition.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Now he's going to be questioning Meg.
Uh-oh.
Who are you?
Who are you?
You're
Get
not my
down.
wife. I love you. Don't bullshit me.
Arnold's here? Wow. Got his first COVID shot, and now he's on our show.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm the governor of California. Used to be.
There's a few times during the movie where people are like, what are you watching? Because all you hear is... This is like the movie of his career.
This is peak that noise.
Yes.
There's a lot
Oh,
of
well,
it.
yeah. Definitely.
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. George, how you
Yes.
doing, man?
Yeah. I'm good, man.
And
Real
Travis, you hanging in there even though you have to be in the same room as George, who's never seen any movies?
Yeah, he's all right. He's good company. Sometimes he rolls his eyes when I show up, but it's fine.
Well,
That's 'cause
don't.
Unless I don't like the movie. Travis hates that.
Yeah, it's like I know when we're in for a treat.
Makes him uncomfortable.
He like answers the door and just kind of like waves me in.
Surly
I'm like,
George is
"Shit."
the meanest George. We don't take kindly to Surly George.
Yeah, I don't get the Silence of the Lambs George too many times. That one, he's like, "Come in, let's talk."
Yeah.
Closer, please.
Yeah, closer, please. It's like a vampire. It's like, come in. Yeah, it sucks, but we're trying.
I think in that case you'd be the vampire if he's
Yeah,
welcoming
I
you
can-
in.
This is true.
Hmm.
You can't come in unless I welcome you in, right?
This is true. That's rule number 1. Ish.
Ish.
There's a few of those rules.
So, George, do you have notes that you want to share, or do you want to just jump into the movie? How are you feeling tonight, man?
I don't have notes.
What? No notes? Okay.
No.
Well,
Oh shit.
tell me your initial impression of Total Recall.
He does not have a beer, so.
Oh, no.
I do have a beer.
Oh, you do have a beer.
Oh,
I
thank
have
God.
a beer. I have a beer and a water. That's good.
Mm.
My initial impression, it's a movie. It's not a bad movie. It's not an epic movie. It's a movie.
Do you know why we watched it though? Like the significance of it.
Eyeballs coming out of people's heads? I don't know. I mean, it was it was like the same plot as the last one, kind of, where he goes on like a very unique vacation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Only this time he gets stuck in it.
Or does he?
Or does he?
No, he definitely does.
It's the same guy, same people that made, or same director as RoboCop. So it kind of has that satirical feel, but it's not written by the same people. It's written by the guy that wrote Blade Runner. So it kind of has, he's like royalty for sci-fi, robot.
Yeah, I should watch Blade Runner.
Artificial intelligence, that futuristic thing, plus the Westworld vacation. Is it real? Is it not? The elites, all that stuff. So I think it's all there.
Is there a big debate as to whether this was real or not? Like, are there people that are in certain camps, or is This is not really.
There's a debate whether it's a Christmas movie or not.
No, stop it.
Okay.
There's too much red. There's not enough green to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah, a lot of red.
Lot of red. There's
Lot
not
of
even
red.
a blue pill. You just, if you don't want to take the red pill, you just don't take the red pill. It's, I mean, it's kind of, if you don't make a choice, you've made a choice to not make a choice kind of thing. I mean, okay, sure. Kind of digging it.
Although the red pill in this movie was kind of the opposite.
It
kind of an orange
was.
pill.
It was more of
Yeah,
a
it
blue
was.
pill, red pill.
Yeah.
Also, the
Was it?
probe was in his nose and not in his belly button, so it wasn't a dick. It was just a bug.
Right.
Right.
A lot of rubber Arnold heads in this movie.
Yes. There's
A
like
lot of
5.
rubber
Mhm.
Arnolds.
Yep.
I was digging it though.
For the time. I mean, I know it's dated. The whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, George is going to hate this. Because I hadn't seen it so long. But, again, nostalgic Travis loves it.
Mm.
Because this came out in 90. So I was a freshman in high school. So it's like in my wheelhouse. Plus it's Schwarzenegger at his, not his peak.
I think this might be peak Schwarzenegger, man.
Well, yeah, T2. So I guess T2 was 91. So yeah, this is peak.
What
This
year was
is-
this?
This was 90.
Mm.
So he was like coming off of Twins, coming off of.
I don't usually think about twins when I think about the peak Schwarzenegger.
Well,
I
that's
don't
when he
put
was his
those two-
most. I guess the word is versatile. I mean, he was doing comedy, he was doing action, he was doing drama. He
I
was-
always feel like
touching
twins
in everything.
and Kindergarten Cop and Last Action
Mhm.
Hero. That's all on the downfall. in
Kindergarten
Letney.
Cop's pretty good though. I do have to
It
say.
is, and it has Carol Baker, which I think we've
Right.
talked about before. But
Yes.
yeah, so Total Recall, then Kindergarten Cop, then Terminator 2. I
Yeah,
mean, he does
that's-
other stuff. I forgot about Eraser, and I mean, you can't forget Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, the 2000s
Movie that makes
were,
a joke
were
out
something.
of mail bombs. What? Huh. Oh, hey, yeah, Twins is before this. Red Heat, Running Man. God,
Yeah.
this man owned the 80s.
Yes, he did.
Now, the 80s, George, were a time before the 90s and after the 70s. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Yes. I am familiar with the decade, yes.
Okay, good. Glad we got that cleared up.
Yeah, I think Running Man would be a good companion piece to this as well.
I love Running Man so much. I'd watch that right now. Pause the show. Let's go watch Running Man. Come back and report on how they're almost the same movie, but like different. Very weird.
I mean, we could technically do just a summer or fall break of just Schwarzenegger movies because they're iconic. Some of them suck. Some of them are great. But we won't do that. We won't do that to you. Jason was enough. But
Is Running Man a Schwarzenegger movie? Word.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's very good. But again, it's like what 87. So right around when Predator came out. Predator was 87 as well.
Mm.
So Running Man might have been right before that or right after that.
Yeah, same year. So
Same year.
heck of a year, man.
Yeah, he was it. He was the one everybody that we've watched wanted to be. You know,
He's a beautiful man.
terrible actor.
I don't know. I like his acting.
I mean it's endearing, but again,
But all
part
the noise you were referring to earlier, that's a lot. There's a lot of
is a
that
lot.
in this movie too.
that's like Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey stuff. But that's been directed. Like you can tell he was so iconic that they were giving people lines from his other movies in this movie. Like when that old lady's like, fuck you asshole. Like that's from Terminator. Like they
Oh.
just threw in
I loved
his lines.
his little bow afterwards. I was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, all right. I love the hat, love the bow, digging it.
And I don't know if you get a movie like Fifth Element without this movie.
Oh, absolutely not. No. The
Yeah.
world building they do in this is underrated because the action is so squibby. There's squibs all over the place. Super violent
Mhm.
movie. You forget because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so cartoonish because of all the red and all the, the matte painting. It looks like
The
a green
green screen.
screen, but not. I don't think it's green screen. I think a lot of it's matte.
Right.
But it might be matte on green screen. I need to watch a making of featurette to find out. Lots of miniature work. God, that hovercraft in this one. I mean, it's like the perfect example of what I was talking about with Westworld, where if you put too much of it on the screen, it doesn't matter how much you spent, it still looks like crap.
It reminded me of like a Disney World's view of what Mars would look like
I like a lot of the large scale stuff that they're, like the cliffside on Mars, lots of stuff moving in small detail. I think they do a real good job executing that. I don't know that they do like a significantly better job than Mario Bava did 20 years earlier in Planet of the Vampires, which we're probably never going to watch, but he made that movie for like $15.
Okay.
And yet it looks almost as good as this. In fact, they rip the story of it off in Alien, Planet of the Vampires.
Okay.
So maybe we will watch it. Should be called Planet of the Zombies, though, because they're not vampires. They're zombies, but whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, I had read that the movie went through like 40 script revisions and like 7 directors, and at one point Patrick Swayze was cast as Quaid before they got Schwarzenegger, and it got shelved, and then Schwarzenegger got involved, and he wanted to be, involved, so then everybody jumped on board again. So it was floated around for like 15, 20 years, the script, which is funny because I think Blade Runner came out in 82. So the writer of that started getting involved in this pretty early. So I don't know how he got removed from it or if he was always the writer, but I didn't see his name in the final credits, so I don't know if he's still being credited as the writer, but I think he was original script was Philip Dick, I think his name was.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick, PKD. I don't know what nerds call Philip K. Dick, but I assume they don't call him PKD.
Maybe Phil Dick?
They might.
But
Phil Dick's a good name.
He's a good writer. He's very influential on this genre.
Yeah.
The thing about this, you don't get Total Recall unless you have Blade Runner make as much of a splash as it did.
Right.
But the thing that George will come to understand when he sees Blade Runner, and then he goes back and watches RoboCop again, because God damn it, watch RoboCop again. Once he does that, he'll start to be able to see the parts of this movie that are still left over from PKD, and then what they changed to make it a Verhoeven movie, and what they did to make it a Schwarzenegger movie.
Right.
This is not the story as it's written, right? This is an Arnold movie, somewhat adapted from a story that supposedly they licensed, but like heavily adapted for Arnold. If you get Patrick Swayze in this movie, it's a different movie.
Right.
It's probably a lot more Blade Runner. But by combining Verhoeven coming off of RoboCop and Schwarzenegger coming off of Commando,
Off of everything.
I mean, he got to the chopper, and now he's here.
It was just a short story that they worked from for the script, right?
My understanding is, too, PKD is deceased at this point. So
okay,
he's not, he doesn't get too much of a say in how they're going to ruin his story to make it all about an atmosphere on Mars. But
I mean, back then, was they just took they got the rights from his short story, and that was it? Kind of like a Stephen King thing where they just wrote the script from his short story?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
So, they pay. His estate gets paid for the licensing of the story, but he doesn't get a writing credit. That kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But that's my understanding. I could have some bad information because the IMDb lists him as the first writer, but just for the short story.
Well, I think Dan O'Bannon was involved too at some point.
Danny O'Bannon.
So, there's some heavy hitters involved in this movie. So I think any of the roll of the eyes that George might have had, it just comes from it being dated. Like it's very dated.
Well, they're going for a home run here too. They're not trying to, keep this one in the park for a single. They're trying to knock this thing all the way to Mars and back. And that's a big swing. I would say they nailed it mostly. What do you think, George? Did you believe Mars? Were you feeling the world building of this movie?
Yeah.
Was it better than the Westworld kind of world building?
No, I actually like the Westworld world building. Well, at least I liked Westworld. I didn't understand the other two. But
well, the world in which Delos has a park called Westworld and Medieval World and Rome World, and the greater world that exists outside those park walls, did that feel as organic as this world that exists purely in like a small section of Mars and then a couple of locations on Earth?
I would say that the world itself was more natural in Westworld. Right? This world, you know, Mars had mutants.
There were a lot of mutants.
A lot of mutants.
This world had
A psychic tummy monster.
a psychic tummy monster.
Come on, Kawato is awesome.
A straight up evil man,
Yeah.
president or dictator or whatever. the
Who
heck
later
he was.
goes on to start the police force in Detroit.
Actually, earlier,
Yeah.
coming off of a successful run of being Dick Jones in RoboCop and being thrown the hell out of a building, he lands
He
on his
landed in
feet
Mars.
and ends up on Mars. Yeah, that's why he had
Same
those
exact character.
really big arms as he's falling out of the building in RoboCop. Those are wings. He's taking off toward Mars.
Or maybe RoboCop was another dream done by Recall.
Ooh, no, I don't think so.
No?
Maybe everything is just recall.
God, wouldn't that make
Maybe.
everything make more sense?
Well, this could be a universe. Because I did hear a bunch of predator noises, so I'm wondering if that's part of the same universe.
Do you hear those predator noises all the time, or only when
No.
you're watching this movie?
When they were in the
Do
reactor...
other people hear the predator noises too?
I only hear them. When they were in the reactor, I heard the noise for the laser, his helmet target
Okay.
was in there, and there was another noise, I believe. The detonation countdown noise was in there from when the bad guy, what's his name, Cohagen, was going to detonate the reactor, and he dropped the detonator. It had like a self-destruct sound.
Okay, so if the reactor, this is why it's definitely a dream. It better be. If the reactor was like the threat to his power, and all he had to do was blow it up, why didn't he blow it up already?
I don't think it was ever a threat. I think the threat was losing control and power over the people.
Absolutely is a threat to his power. If someone turns that reactor on and it makes a atmosphere,
They don't need him.
they don't need him. It's a
Right.
threat to his power. So why wouldn't he, when he found it, just like be like, oh crap, what should I do with this thing? Well, I should probably disable it or destroy it, make it so that it can't be used.
There might be a whole subplot there of him trying to figure out how to harness the power and not wanting it to become natural power. Like once the people know that you can create atmosphere with that thing, he has no more power anymore. So at some point I was like, like you said, why is he blowing this up? Because he doesn't want it to create an atmosphere.
Why hasn't he blown it up already?
Because I don't know.
Why hasn't he deactivated it? Or like,
Maybe he didn't know how to.
He needed Jeff Goldblum.
He needed Jeff Goldblum.
Hack into that alien tech.
Yes. Must go faster.
Oh man! Speaking of predator noises, I loaded up the Name It song tonight onto YouTube.
I saw that.
Our debut on YouTube as we slowly will hopefully start putting old podcasts on there so that the YouTube crowd can also get to know us.
Yes.
And you know, you always hear bad things about the YouTube algorithm. At least I always hear bad things about the YouTube algorithm and how if you leave it unchecked, it will like inherently bring you into like the dark facets of the internet just on its own.
Yeah.
And so the first time I watched the video to make sure it uploaded all the way, the next suggested video was a Chris Hansen video.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, YouTube, go home. You're drunk. This was a
Right.
Rambo video with techno beats. Why are you trying to take me to Chris Hansen?
Why don't you come and have a seat?
Oh my God. What? YouTube. Maybe I don't want to be on YouTube.
We
Ugh.
need to.
I know.
I know. It's
Ugh.
smarmy.
Ugh.
It has its corners of smarminess. Just have to stay out of it.
YouTube is my favorite social media platform.
I do watch a lot of things on there, so I listen to it
It's my
while I'm working.
favorite.
Between comedians, old stand-up, commentary,
Yep.
reactions. I enjoy it. I try to stay out of the rabbit hole, but every once in a while you end up in a rabbit hole. They just send you something on the side. You're like, I'm really curious.
Don't click those links. Don't click
Don't
those
click
links
'em. I
unless
know.
they're from the Remedial Film Class. In which
Class,
case,
right?
click those links.
Click away and smash that button.
Oh,
Smash that like
man.
button.
Now my kids are walking around the house going, name it, name it, name it,
Name it.
name it, name it, name it. Hilarious.
Uh,
I might have ruined Rambo for my children. Like, by the time they're old enough to watch Rambo, they're going to be like, oh, it's the Name It guy.
It's the Name It song, yeah.
Oops.
My 4-year-old daughter, I know you don't watch Walking Dead, but there's a scene where Negan calls somebody creepy as shit, and my daughter says that. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Oh, that's really funny.
He's like, you looking at me creepy as shit with that smile? And she says, Dad, it's creepy. She doesn't say shit, but she says it, and I'm just like, oh my God, she's a sponge. So I think I'm going to keep her away from Total Recall and Rambo as well. A lot of violence.
Have you ever watched the show Magic City?
No.
It was like a 2-season run on, I want to say, Stars, about 10 years ago. It has Negan in the lead role as like this casino owner or nightclub owner. It's been a while since I watched it. It's a filthy show. Do not watch it with your kids. But watch it because he's amazing in it. Like, I get why, even having not watched Walking Dead, my coworkers love him. And I get it because the guy has the it factor.
Yeah, he has it.
And he's real good on that show, and he's not killing people like he was in Watchmen, where you get that he's a cool guy with the it factor, but he also commits atrocities, so you can't love him. But on Magic City, he's not committing any atrocities, so you can just bask in his coolness.
Yeah, it's kind of like Lecter with him sometimes. It's just like takes the regular line, and you're just like, damn, that was good.
Yeah.
Kind of like Arnold.
What? He committed no atrocities.
You know what's funny about this movie?
He was in Batman and Robin.
Yes, he was.
Cool
party. What killed the dinosaurs? Oh my God. That script makes me want to jump off a bridge.
Are we going to watch that next week still?
God,
or are we
no.
taking that off?
Oh yeah,
the
we have
list?
that's in the schedule.
It's in the queue.
That I will never watch that movie.
Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman. What? He just said the
card.
line.
Never leave home without it. Ugh. He's got a charge card with the Batman logo on it. Come on. Ugh. George look at me like, I'm never watching that. Good, don't. It's terrible. The acting in the beginning of this movie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I honestly think it was on purpose.
I thought the acting was fine in this movie, but I have really low expectations because it's an Arnold movie from 1990.
The acting, I'm talking about even Sharon Stone and Ironside, like everybody kind of gradually became real. Like in the beginning, they all seemed kind of soap opera, hokey, corny, like almost waiting for your line. Nobody was on top. Like there's that volley in dialogue sometimes.
No, she was on top.
Yeah, but when you watch it, it's almost like, because she's an Oscar award winning.
I'm just kidding.
She was on top.
She was physically.
Yes,
on top.
she was on top.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, later in her career, she becomes Sharon Stone from Casino. But this movie, you could tell she got the movie just because of the way she looks. Like she's just not. She was not lighting that screen up with anything but her looks.
Right.
I thought she was fine. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not critical.
No, she was good. She was fine. She was fine. But again, when you have to act with Arnold, I think you're a bit handicapped.
You've got a real anti-Arnold bias here.
I love Arnold.
I'm almost concerned about adding him at the end of this episode because he might come and kick your butt in.
He would say, I know I'm not a good actor. I know it. He's right. He would say that. What is this fucking Thai business? Like he has great delivery, but he has almost zero acting ability, if that makes sense. Like he's not doing any character study. He's himself, and that's it. Actually, the biggest character study he did was when he played. He wasn't playing Quaid. Who was the informant, the guy on the TV screen?
I don't know. He's like on the credits. It only says that
Quaid.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Quaid.
Right. So what's the name of the character that Quaid is supposed to be?
I forget.
But I know, yeah, the
special agent.
The special agent, the guy on the screen.
Yeah.
That was Arnold acting.
And he was good. Soldier guy.
Yeah,
was
he was
real
good.
scary.
Yeah, it was good. It was.
He was not Arnold. He was very calm, cool, collected, almost kind of a dick.
Yeah.
You know, he was playing many levels. At first, he's his best friend. You know, you're me. And then when you find out he's part of it, then he's a dick. So he was actually doing his best acting there. When he's Arnold, it's just like watching Nicolas Cage or whoever. Like they're going to be Keanu Reeves. They're going to be them no matter what they're in. If they're playing Wyatt Earp or if they're playing, Bill and Ted, like they're always going to be Keanu Reeves. They're always going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. So when he does act, it's almost like, wow, it's rare. Because why do you have to act? You're making $30 million a movie being you.
Could you be any more Arnold?
Could you be any more? But see, once he found out, I guess when he found out his coworker was part of it, I guess he was in the dream, and they start pulling guns on him and stuff, that's when he kind of comes up to, when everybody kind of comes to speed and becomes, they're not acting anymore. Everybody was kind of great. But that first 25 minutes, I was like, ooh, George is going to, ooh.
It's very hard to talk about this movie because the entire time it could be a dream, right? So all of the things that happen that don't make sense or all the coincidences or all the whatever, if it's a dream, like none of the stuff that we're talking about matters. It's just nonsense in someone's brain.
I think it's real.
You think it's real?
I think I think the story's right. I think he was kind of taken away from the situation and given that alternate identity to keep him out of the Mars situation. But I don't know, because they didn't show enough of like the travel. Like all of a sudden he's just in Mars. Like it could be in his head.
I actually rewound it because I was like, did I miss the part where he went to Mars?
Right.
Like he's at Mars already, and I rewound it and I was like, oh.
It's like the Truman Show. To me, it was like, how much of this is he going to like get to the very end and hit the wall and find the exit door?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Was it a dream or was it a real world?
Well, my understanding of the original story by PKD, Philip K. Dick, which I mean, that's a pretty fun name, honestly. We should just be leaning into Philip K. Dick.
Philkadick.
Sharon Stone K's a lot of dicks in this movie. Did you notice that?
Oh
That
God.
lady hates
she does.
Arnold's dong. Every scene she's in, she kicks him or punches him square in the balls. Like, what has she got against that man's balls? I don't know. Anyway.
She's so hot, though.
The original story, we can remember it for you wholesale. I've never actually sat down and read the thing. I'm not a big sci-fi guy, and PKD is not one that I've ever read much of his stuff. But my understanding is that the short story itself deals with perception in a way that this movie does not. And
like virtual reality kind of thing?
Well, just I think it more coherently plays with the idea consistently throughout the story as, is this just an implant or is this actually happening? This movie, guys, it plays it pretty straightforward that it is what it is on the surface. And then it brings in that ending of like, maybe it's all a dream, but like, it's like a wink at the audience, fourth wall breaking kind of thing. The plot itself is only consistent if it is not a dream, and they do accidentally awaken whatever's hiding in his brain. So it's not a dream in the movie, but the movie slyly is like, but maybe it's a dream at the end.
Wink, wink.
But in the story, it may be a dream, or it may be 50-50 debatable. But the movie, man, it's pretty straightforward. Like, I went in today, open-minded, keeping score. Dream, not a dream. And it's not a dream, dudes. It's real, which is weird.
The only thing that doesn't make it look real is those damn cabs look like they're from like 1982.
I do dig the cabs. They look like they're out of Blade Runner, like straight off a Blade Runner set, which is fun.
But they should have covered the tires. I mean, they look like junkyard tires from
There's a lot of things like that. I don't know. There's a lot of things like that.
Like, you spend the time to have the robotic driver, and you spend the time to make it look like Richard Picard, and you get his voice, but then you have this car from like 1972 with some weird fenders, and it's just like,
Yeah, it's just like kind of like square looking but it's just the same thing.
Yeah, and they're having these huge car chases with these go-karts.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I mean, maybe
Satirical
it's just because it's 2021. These things these things aren't amazing anymore. But like, there's a lot of things that are, I guess, supposed to be futuristic in this movie that just aren't.
Well, yeah, I mean, Back to the Future 2 came out,
Like
87-ish?
Okay.
88?
And what was this?
And
you said 90s?
this was 90, and the cars in Back to the Future Part 2 were way more futuristic.
Yeah, like take for example the telephone. The telephone that shows someone's face on it.
Yeah.
Like
Flintstone style.
my
we have that
God.
now, man.
We have that. It's a FaceTime.
That's so futuristic.
Simpsons did it 4 years prior.
Yeah.
But that was the thing in the 90s. Like, everybody wanted a video phone. And I don't know why. I still don't know why anyone wants to see my face on the phone.
Yeah, that's weird.
That was also in Back to the Future 2, I believe.
But
the
it's
video
been,
phone.
yeah, I mean, they've been doing video phone in one form or another. I mean, Westworld had it.
Westworld had it.
So
yeah. Dick
it's-
Tracy had it on his watch.
the
There you
wall
go.
that can turn into a TV.
I did
Yeah.
like that.
It's like, woo, so futuristic. Like, we can go to Mars, and this is what, like, I don't know, like the wall that can turn into a TV. It's like, how about just like something that you can stick your head into that like totally change? Oh wait, they have that.
What's that?
That can just like change your reality.
Oh, George.
Sorry.
Oh,
Well,
George.
I just, it kind of has that same thing. Like, you didn't see Demolition Man, but it's hard to see a new world in the future when it looks like it's from the past.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Like, why? You know,
your brain doesn't let you wrap
If it's so important that we keep certain areas of the planet oxygenated so that people can live, why make everything out of glass? Why? Why
Heat?
breakable glass?
It's like a greenhouse.
Because it's a view. They want to see. You flew all the way to Mars. You want to see it.
We have technology to get to Mars, but we don't have technology to make unbreakable glass yet. Like,
All right, I hate this movie. Thanks, George.
that's why I'm thinking like I'm not saying it has to be a dream, but I'm like, if this is his dream, then this is just his brain making up nonsense, in which case this movie's okay. But if this is supposed to be real, it's like, there's so much plot stuff that's just like not doing it for me.
See, I think what drew me in is the practical effects. When I was
Yeah, I
young,
like the practical effects. The three boobs was great.
well, even like
like
all the mutant
faces,
effects were really sweet.
They were all cool.
Quado was cool. Now you
The
look
hand,
at him. Yeah.
what's his name? The taxi driver's hand
Yeah.
that like came out, and it was like, oh, he's a mutant. He's cool. And then he was not cool.
He was not cool.
I don't understand why if all of this was just a plan to get him back to Mars, why they shot so many innocent people in the process. But like,
I think his plan was to bring him back to infiltrate the rebellious group.
yeah, why did they have to shoot so many? Like,
I think that it's that whole mentality of everybody's expendable. You know,
that reminded me of RoboCop. a
yeah,
little
the
bit.
ends justify the means.
When he was on the escalator.
Mm.
When he was on the escalator and he was holding the guy up and like he was just
Oh,
using,
yeah.
him,
As a shield.
using him as a bullet sponge. I was like, yo, this is getting more and
Yeah.
more ridiculous.
I watched that. I was
Kind of
like,
reminded
oh,
me of ED-209 a little bit.
a little bit. It was good, but it was funny because it was serious when he first did it.
Right, and then it turned into satire real quick.
By the 12th or 14th bullet, and then he turns around. I'm like, what is this, airplane?
Jesus Christ.
I'm waiting for him to start knocking people over with his body. Yeah, it definitely has that.
Actually,
satire
I've
feel.
progressed because like a season 1 me would have been like, this is ridiculous, and now I'm just kind of like, yo, that's funny.
Now you're like, season 1 George is ridiculous.
I'm like, I see what you did there. That's
Yeah.
funny.
George
That's
is like,
ridiculous.
"Fuck, I got like 3 movies to go back and watch now because that George sucked.
At some point in the next couple of seasons, we are going to have to watch Starship Troopers, which will kind of finish this trilogy of Paul Verhoeven,
yeah.
super violent, futuristic world building. And you can just see how he progresses as a filmmaker from RoboCop through this on to Starship Troopers, but also like the different choices they make and how they present the future in different ways. But you got to stop harping on their technology guessing. I mean, okay, granted, Tech 9s and Mac 10s just with like a block of clay on the front to make them look square is a little silly. And the fact that
get your prop department to make some friggin' guns. Like,
why aren't you shooting lasers yet?
Right.
But guys,
Like,
here's the other thing. How could they possibly, as filmmakers, guess what future tech is going to look like? Like, they've got to take a guess and they've got to go with a choice. But, I mean, I noticed the serial ports on the computers are still those giant parallel, like what your printer used to plug in back in the mid-90s. And then the flashlights, good God, giant police incandescent flashlights. Like, there's no way they could ever have predicted LEDs would become what they are.
You know why it's not forgivable?
Why?
Because you had, I mean, this was 90, right?
Yeah.
You had plenty, including Blade Runner. You had plenty of reference, even like television shows like V and Alien Nation, the movie Alien Nation. Like, there's plenty of frames of reference to say, okay, even Star Trek, Star Wars. You know, Star Wars took normal guns and turned them into blasters. It's not hard. You just have to be willing to commit to it.
what year did Star Wars come out?
77.
73? 77?
So by 83, you had Jedi. So that all happened. Predator happened. Even V, like V, the guns they carried in V were just like little laser tag guns, but at least they were shaped like an alien race created them.
And we're using projectiles still.
Yeah.
And we can get to Mars, but
Hell, even Rocky Horror Show had like the transvestites had laser beams at the end of the movie. They had, I mean, that movie was satire on crack, and they had it. So, I mean, I can't excuse that to be like, oh, it's 1990. We don't know what the future's going to look like. Bullshit. Like,
I don't know, man. It's 2021 and we still don't have frickin' lasers.
It's true, but we're getting
we
there.
have projectiles. In fact, we're using the same damn guns in the Army that we have been essentially. I mean, okay, they're a little different now. They don't jam as bad.
Yeah,
but I mean,
we're
talking about the same
terraforming on
guns
Mars yet.
since 1965.
Right.
Like,
but like even
come
like
on.
1950, you have sci-fi movies that are pushing the envelope. I mean,
But this
what
isn't
George
a
is saying
sci-fi
is-
movie. This is an action movie that takes place in
Right.
the near future. So they didn't decide to be Star Wars. They made a choice to not be Star Wars.
Right.
So you may not agree with that choice, but it's not like they didn't know Star Wars was a thing and they were just like, oh, let's just put some clay on these guns.
Right. No, it was definitely a choice. What I'm saying is that what you said was they made that choice based on certain things, and I'm saying that there was plenty of popular mechanics articles that can help you, you know, from 1958 that could have helped you make it look like it was, you know, technology.
Like it was Star Wars?
Not like it was Star Wars, but if you're advanced enough to have basic communities and colonize Mars and terraform, indoor terraforming it on Mars, then you have enough technology to figure out, okay, the guns are going to be different.
I don't know,
It's
man.
the future.
If I look into my like civilization tech tree, I can probably get future tech that gets me to Mars without ever upgrading from the M16 platform.
well, think about it. Like, Elon Musk is like trying to get to Mars like nobody's business. Like, that's his thing. He's trying to get to Mars. Doesn't his electric truck kind of look like the cars in this
a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Movie.
it's definitely got a RoboCop vibe for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, I think that maybe Elon Musk took a lot of his like inspiration from this movie, maybe. You know, for his cars and his reason for living.
But what's funny with what Dan's saying, like,
But and also we're still using
projectiles,
bullets.
right?
Yeah, not lasers. So maybe it is more. Maybe this is more accurate. Maybe this, what we're experiencing right
It's
now,
all a dream.
is Elon Musk's recall.
Okay.
That's what we're living.
I'm
right
on it.
now.
See, I'm thinking, like, based on the weaponry, whatever, what we're talking about. Like, if you look at the idea of
Ooh.
what
Elon Musk is
Quaid.
Cohagen.
Oh, yeah,
So we've got like 25 years before he's a bad guy.
he's a supervillain
Yeah.
villain on Mars.
I mean, he is like a Bond villain, right? Just
Yeah,
incubating, like waiting for the time that he's going to take over an island and hold its city hostage with a giant ray gun or something.
with a giant boulder mouth.
But then he's going to
Although
need
I
a
don't-
giant
I
ray
don't see-
gun.
I don't see Elon being.
and sharks with lasers.
I don't see Elon being like that though.
So again, to go back with, you think of a story like Stargate, which I know George has not seen Stargate.
Yes, Stargate, of course.
You don't know what that is?
I have no idea.
Okay,
what that is.
so the premise of Stargate is that ancient civilizations like Egypt were inspired by aliens visiting here.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you look at that movie, which you would probably see at some point. It's a good movie, but it shows Egyptian type gear, garb, weaponry, and whatever, but with a alien twist to it where they look like they're Egyptian staffs, but they shoot lasers. Like,
Well, I mean,
there's a way
we covet what we see, don't we, Hannibal?
we see every day, right? So they tackled that idea of okay, time period, they're still going to be more advanced. These are Egyptian type villain aliens, but they look like they're Egyptians until you see their technology. But their technology is still based in what Egyptian people had. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Like their staffs, their headgear, the headdresses, everything that you would see in hieroglyphics is explained in this movie as alien armor, helmets, guns. So they take an ancient art form and wardrobe and whatever, but they explain it in an alien type way.
Gotcha.
Advanced.
Gotcha.
So you're like, okay, yeah, they used to draw this guy with a jackal for a head. And it's like, how stupid is that? So then in this movie, it shows you what an alien race would look like wearing these outfits and why the Egyptians drew them. It's a really cool idea when you look at the crossing of civilizations. You got this alien race, and then you have this ancient civilization. They're clashing. At one point, they're intersecting, and you see where we get our inspiration from the alien race. That's future meeting past. So I'm saying with this movie, it's unforgivable to have M16s with clumps of clay on the end.
No, they were Mac 10s, but
Mac 10s, yeah.
You know, the thing
Mac
is,
something.
I would like to hear someone a bit more well-versed in it than myself take an Occam's razor approach to the Stargate thing. Because it's like, here are these humans who live in the desert or near the desert and are exposed to wild animals. And these wild animals are somewhat of a threat. And so they start to kind of form the forms of these wild animals into kind of superior god beings in their art. And take that against aliens showed up dressed like these monsters, and so they drew pictures of these alien monsters. Like Occam's razor, I'm pretty sure is going to be like, well, they saw leopards. Leopards are scary, so they made leopard people on their pictures. But I don't know. I don't know. Stargate.
I'm not making an argument for aliens inspiring
Egyptians. This is what you get for writing Stargate. Bah!
Such a good idea, though.
It's
Science fiction wise, it's a cool idea.
It's a cool idea. I don't know if.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's not based in science. Let's put it that way.
It's a neat,
but it's
alternative explanation for something that we already have an explanation for. But it is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But this movie's
I
fine.
enjoy it.
This movie did a fine job of guessing at what was going to be futuristic. It did a better job of showing like an internet kind of thing with the connected computers and everything than Back to the Future Part 2 did.
It also covered NSA type shit really well too. Like and the whole over secure, like the airport, they kind of right on the nose with 9/11 and all that stuff. Like
they really did.
The whole body scan, skeletal pass through, like all that stuff was very futuristic, but is happening now. You know, listening in. I got a little old country, No Country for Old Men kind of feel with the whole tracking system in the head. You know, they're trying to catch Quaid, and no matter where he goes, they find him,
right? Because
he's carrying a tracker, but it's not in a suitcase; it's in his head,
right?
Like all that stuff was done well in a futuristic, almost like on the nose kind of guess.
Like why does Arnold's character in the screen tell him to take the tracking device out? For what reason?
So he could go. I don't know. If he's part of it, then why would he?
If all of this was a plan to get him to Mars, why take the tracker out? Why?
Because it's a dumb spy action movie. The thing that this movie does that annoys me, I like this movie, but it goes down.
Right off.
it goes down this path that so many spy movies from like 1980 to like now do, which is you're a spy, you're undercover. Now you're a double agent. Now your mentor is a double agent for the bad guys, so you're like a triple agent, but you didn't know it. And it's just by the end you don't. What?
I have an answer for your question, George.
Go ahead.
To earn his trust.
I thought that too, but I was like, there's
in a 1989, 90 kind of way. Actually, it was written a lot earlier. Probably to earn his trust.
It's him.
Maybe.
But it's
He has
maybe.
to trust himself.
Might
Oh,
be a
wait.
deep fake. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they probably had deep fakes by then.
It's like he's trying to get him back. If you believe that the Mars thing is real, he has to get him to believe that he has insiders that are going to help him when he gets there. Because if you remember, his alter ego gave him all those IDs, told him which name to use at the front desk at the hotel when he gets there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he helped him a lot, but then they basically retrofit it all at the end by, oh, we did that all on purpose because we wanted you to be comfortable so you could do what you needed to do to get us to Quado, because that was our goal, was to kill Quado and his people. So, yeah, maybe they helped him just so that he can get them to that point, and then he's expendable. Because you heard him after he leaves the room and Ironside's standing there, and Cohagen says, kill him. After they just invited him to a party and all that stuff. So he basically got to the point where, okay, he keeps escaping. We have to get rid of him. We have to kill him.
He knows too much, but he doesn't know how to access the memories, so we got to hook him up to a psychic tummy monster.
This was after the tummy monster, right?
Hey, but Michael Ironside, I'm not like in the cult, I'm not really in the fan club. I don't get the monthly newsletter about Michael Ironside and his whereabouts, but let me tell you, he's pretty good in this movie. But you know what he's better in, guys?
Starship Troopers.
The year before this movie came out, he has a spoken word part on a Warren Zevon kind of progressive rock techno synth song called Run Straight Down. And he just deadpan Michael Ironside reads the process of entropy, scientific, like chemical entropy. The song itself is about societal entropy, but he's like on rhythm, not unlike the Name It, Name It, Name It song, but he's just describing the chemical process of entropy in a very Michael Ironside's kind of descriptive voice. And it's like part of the song. It's really cool.
Huh. Some would say his work in Top Gun probably was better.
Who was he in Top Gun? I don't remember.
He was Viper.
Which one's Viper?
He was the instructor that Maverick dogfights against during the instructionals. And
I need to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
It's been too long, man. I just remember
to watch that movie, period.
You've never seen Top Gun? Oh, that's on the list.
Get your swim shorts ready, George.
Yeah, a little beach volleyball.
Ooh, yeah.
Hey now.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good movie. Maybe we'll watch it around when the new one comes out.
Ugh.
Oh, there's a new one coming out?
There's a sequel coming out, yeah.
Ugh.
No spoilers.
Hey, you know who else was in this movie for a brief minute? Do you know who Mickey Jones is, George?
Mickey Jones?
Mickey Jones.
I can't say that I do.
He was the miner on the train on Mars. He's like kind of a burly guy with a big beard, kind of a mini, mini ZZ Top beard, and he's like, I used to work in those mines, blah, 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 exposition.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was on Home Improvement. If you ever watched that TV show, he'd show up in the Benford Band who would come and play tools for music. And that's why you should know. The thing about Mickey Jones, back in 1960 and 6, this little-known kind of cult, I don't know, niche guy who nobody's ever heard of named Bob Dylan decided to go electric. You've ever heard these stories about Bob Dylan going electric and big old middle finger to the folk crowd, but maybe not. Have you heard these stories, George? Do you know these stories?
No.
These are like in the Old Testament of folk rock. Like, you need to know these stories.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you the whole story now, but maybe I will. But the important thing is, you've heard of a band called The Band. Are you familiar
Yes.
with The Band?
Yes.
And Levon Helm, the best drummer in rock and roll?
Sure.
Well, after a couple of shows with Bob Dylan, The Band was his backup band, and they got booed off the stage for playing electric in a pretentious, uptight folk crowd. And Levon Helm was like, this sucks. And he quit, and he went and worked on an oil rig. And Mickey Jones stepped in and played drums on a tour where they got booed off the stage every night. So if you ever go back and listen to these they're awesome concerts, because it's like everybody paid for their ticket to go to a show to like hate watch Bob Dylan. And if you ever listen to these live recordings, they're out on like official bootlegs now, which, I mean, official bootlegs, whatever. But the first half of the concert is acoustic and the crowd's eating it up. And then he comes out with his electric band and Mickey's on the drums, and the whole place is just booing them every time they're quiet. But they stick around. And then eventually, like, Judas! You've never heard these stories? God, guys.
No,
Catch up
I
on your
haven't.
Bob Dylan stories.
It reminds me of Blues Brothers, though.
Yeah, I mean, it very much does have a Blues Brothers getting beer bottles thrown at him feel. But this was real life and about, 15 years earlier. But long story short, the drummer that filled in for Levon Helm on that tour, who played the holy hell out of those drums, ended up in this movie as like a former miner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mickey Jones.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in Mask as well?
He's in a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, he's like a character.
100-something movies he was in. Always burly. Always giving
He's
exposition.
probably one of the bikers in Bronx Tale. Now you can't leave.
He's the mechanic in Vacation.
Mm-hmm.
That guy. Yeah.
That guy.
That guy played drums with Bob Dylan. Pretty cool. Judas. You've never heard the Judas story, George?
No.
So they finish
Tell
up
me about it.
They finish up a song. It's like this famous bootleg recording that's been circulating since 1966. Supposedly it's at the Royal Albert Hall that this occurred, but they're saying now that they did play a show there on the tour, but this recording was made at a different hall in England. But they finish up one song, and like in between songs, they're tuning live because they didn't have silent tuners yet, so they're getting their stuff together, and you hear somebody in the crowd yell Judas as loud as they can. And there's like this pause, and then like the crowd kind of cheers that guy, and there's some screaming and stuff. And you hear Dylan get off the mic just enough, and he turns to the band and he says, "Play it fucking loud," right? And then they hit into like a Rolling Stone, and they just like beat the crowd about the face with their rock, like in a Tenacious D way, but real. And by the end of the song, the crowd's like, "Oh, that was kind of cool." Yeah,
Wow.
it's awesome. It's on record. You can listen to it on the record. Judas, play it fucking loud. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it's just like, whoa. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Mickey Jones playing drums.
You don't believe all that alien stuff, do you?
Who?
No, that's not what he says.
Yeah.
Because he's like, like Arnold says something about they're finding alien stuff, and he's like, you don't believe that, right?
Arnold was like, "Didn't I hear you on a Bob Dylan album? This is fucking Thai business.
Didn't you used to play with Dylan?
Play it fucking loud."
Oh, no. That's what I need. I need Arnold to sing me a Bob Dylan song.
I don't know any.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to send you some YouTube links. You gotta know your Dylan.
I mean, I know him when I hear him. Believe me, I know him when I hear him.
Just do,
But I don't know any of the words.
Just do, like Dylan's affect.
Well, I know he doesn't.
As yeah, as
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man. Yeah, that. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man.
It just sounds like
song
Arnold.
for me.
Oh, my.
Right?
Oh, my.
The jingle jangle. What? What's the words?
If God, oh wow! Before I had kids, I could tell you the year of a recording based on where the affect was.
Meg's probably.
I
like,
listened to
"What
so
the
much
hell are they
Dylan for a
doing?"
while that it was just like, oh, that's an 82. You can hear he's really pushing the but I don't know, man. Welcome to the Remedial Bob Dylan podcast.
Podcast, yeah.
Welcome to the Remedial Bob Dylan podcast.
I'm your host.
Bob Dylan's always an artist that I meant to get into.
Dude, that sounds like an invitation. I'm going to send you
He's
some
a poet.
shit.
Definitely a poet. I've always liked him, but I never really listened to him until like I got older. You're forgetting, Dan. I grew up in a house of doo-wop,
Bunch of people that would have booed Bob Dylan for playing electric instruments.
My parents didn't listen to the Beatles. They didn't listen to Zeppelin. They didn't listen to, like, everything was, Motor City. So when I got old enough and I started hearing classic rock, I was like one of my first art directors used to call me Potsy.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because I was always, kind of talking about that music and he would try to let me listen to like Rage Against the Machine and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. He didn't like, no, I love it now. But
yeah, you love it.
He introduced me to that because whenever we'd listen to radio in the morning, Howard Stern would go into classic rock. And I'm like, oh God, if I got to listen to another 27-minute long Led Zeppelin song, I'm going to, go play in traffic.
What?
Yeah, I just was not. But by the time I got done working with him, I was listening to all of it. So
you were schooled.
I was schooled, and he didn't really have to school me. It was just that it was a taste in music that I never had. It just wasn't. Aerosmith might have been the only. Early Aerosmith was like the only thing that I was venturing away from, other than my '90s music. Like oldies for me were the classics. So when I heard, maybe 80s stuff, like Van Halen type stuff, but I never listened to like alternative until later.
That's funny that you like embraced the music that was in your household.
Why?
Because I did the opposite.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, your parents weren't listening to
no, I
Motown.
actually, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I actually, at the time, they were listening to like country music, and like not good country music, like popular country.
Oh God,
country
like
music.
1994 mullet.
Yeah.
Mullet country.
Yeah.
Like Tammy Wynette stuff.
Dixie Chicks.
Oh God, this was later. Ooh.
Yeah.
Now they're just the chicks,
I mean,
I'm told.
George. They were listening to George Strait and
Alan Jackson,
Garth Brooks.
Yeah, Garth Brooks.
I mean, you can do worse.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. It was like when they start listening to like
Brooks and Dunn, Alabama,
the early stuff.
Like, okay. So, anyways, I hated country music. I couldn't stand country music. I remember, like, my dad's a dry cleaner, right? So whenever you drop your clothes off of the dry cleaner, they got to put a ticket on them so that they make sure that those clothes get back to you. Anyways, we were ticketing clothes like 3 nights a week or whatever, or however often we did it. And he would have the radio on, and it would be like this country station. And like every night at the same time, Honky Tonk Badonkadonk would come on. I'm like, this shit is going to kill me. Fuck this shit. So,
where's my Weezer?
No, seriously. So, like,
Honky-tonk,
I just hated country music for the longest time. And I'm only recently kind of dipping my toe back into country music and appreciating it.
Oh, my.
Old country music,
Yeah.
good country music.
See, my introduction to country music was Elvis.
That's not really country. I mean, it is, but it's not.
I mean, some
also.
of his I'm not talking about his rock and roll. Like I'm talking, my mom had every album, so I was hearing like.
I thought wasn't he like more gospel before he
was
around?
gospel. It was country. Like he dabbled in a lot.
Yeah.
So my take and that, and maybe like Dolly Parton, like from TV shows that who were the sisters?
Dolly Parton's amazing.
Yeah, there was a few, the Mandrell sisters. Like my mom would watch some of that. She was supposedly related to Sally Starr, so she kind of had a connection.
Isn't
to
everybody?
Everybody apparently is, yeah. But like rodeo, like my mom was into country, but she never played it around me. It was always the oldies. Until I found her albums, I'm like, oh my God, what is this? What's the Grand Ole Opry? I don't even know what this is.
What's the Grand Ole Opry?
Other than Hee Haw, what kind of reference? And I think Mandrell had a show at one, Barbara Mandrell, but there really wasn't much country stuff going on unless you had to find it. When I was a kid, 10 years later, country was kind of mainstream when you were a kid. Now it's like rap. Back then, you had to kind of find it. It was like old school rap. It was like underground. We really ventured away from Total Recall. What
I
happened?
thought we were
It's
talking
a
about.
terrible movie. Why are we like?
Oh, it's
why
a
even
fine,
talk about it?
It's a fine
It's a
movie. It's
fine
fun.
movie.
It's like
It's a classic.
It's like
It's
whatever.
a classic. It's like saying
They had the
Yeah.
opportunity to do like an intellectual exercise, and then they instead went full Arnold, Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop world. Like, but a lot of the subtext from RoboCop is gone in this, and it's just too much. Like, I don't know. It had ambitions. I don't know that it really like achieved any of them except to be a popcorn flick.
That's basically what it was.
But it's
It was a
fun.
popcorn.
I
flick.
enjoyed it.
I agree.
I do love one thing I love about this movie is when Michael Ironside's character is getting a little uppity. Dick Jones, whatever, what's his name in this movie? Ronnie
Cohagen?
Cox. What's his name? Cohagen.
Cohagen.
Cohagen. He's just like, I don't give you enough information to think,
Yeah.
and it's just like, man, if more people understood their own position in the world,
Yeah.
maybe they'd chill out a little bit. You know, like.
That's true.
Oh, this movie's chock full of like commentary when it comes to the Iron Fist or the dictator type leadership, all that stuff. I was like, man, Dan's gonna have a field day when we talk about this.
Oh man,
Mm.
it is. It's not
It's
something
very heavy on that.
Yeah, it's a bit on the nose, and
The
I think you're going to see
Gestapo
that
and-
continue, maybe even more so with Starship Troopers.
Yeah, but it's done in a military way, so it's not as it's not like top down. It's more like rank. It's you're never seeing the people in charge. You're seeing
Yeah, it's like
just the
variations
military.
on a theme.
Yeah. So it kind of just takes you in that to me, and I never saw it as heavy. This movie, it's very heavy-handed. It's like boom. You have the resistance, and then you have the who's in charge, and it's basically just textbook dictatorship. Starship Troopers doesn't really touch on that too much per se.
But we'll see if we ever watch it.
It's the best one out of the three.
Oh,
And then we'll watch Showgirls.
I mean,
No. Maybe Basic Instinct. I don't
Basic
know.
Instinct, I think I'm going to like a lot more this time than the last time I watched it 10 years ago, because I've been so into the Giallos that I think
Right.
that aspect of it, I'm going to be like, oh, I see where they're getting their
Oh, it definitely has that.
ideas
yes.
from.
You know what's funny? I had mentioned to Dan about a movie called The Game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Michael Douglas movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably what you're looking for when it comes to this idea without the action. It's more like a thriller. And it's very tense, very it's not, there's no science fiction to it, there's no action. It's just like a flat out like Pelican Brief kind of thriller. And I think you would probably like that because it has a lot of the elements of this idea without the genre, without the Schwarzenegger.
Like they have the ability to wipe someone's mind and turn them into someone else. In that
Not
movie?
so much that, but kind of. Like I don't want to give it away, but
Yeah, word.
it definitely has. It's more up your alley.
But it's no like it doesn't take place in space.
No,
It's
No.
like real world stuff. Trying to make it seem like it happens in
And-
the real world.
right. And it was directed by David Fincher, so it kind of has that Seven cinematography, that Seven feel, but it's not a horror. It's not a murder mystery, but
Right.
it definitely has a lot of suspense and tense moments.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think it fits in the curriculum, but it's something that you might want to watch.
There's a
And then you can
moment
check
in
back
this
later.
movie after he's killed the first four guys, and he kind of
Mm-hmm.
has this moment of realization, like, oh, I'm really good at this. I wonder why I'm so good at this. I want you to remember that moment, because sometime in the coming seasons, I've got a movie that I'm going to make you guys watch that has a very similar moment, but a very different context. But I'm going to harken back to this exact moment. So just bookmark that in your minds. Dan's going to talk about that later.
Like when he's looking at his hands
Yeah, like, whoa.
after he kills the four
Mhm.
guys.
Whoa, what did these hands do before I knew them?
Yes.
I always thought, I guess since he died, they couldn't do it, but I always thought that would be a good idea for a Bruce Lee movie. Would have been like him discovering, not knowing, that he's that badass of a fighter, but actually discovering it through situation. Like he has amnesia or whatever, and then he finds out how badass he is. I don't know if it's ever been done before, but I see him, there's plenty of other people who do that, like a Chuck Norris or Jackie Chan or whatever, but I think Bruce Lee would have, because of how he fought, would have been cool to see him discover that ability.
When Sharon Stone wasn't going straight for the family jewels, she had some pretty good form in her fighting today. I was impressed with the training they'd done with her.
And her Z Cavarici suit was so 90s.
I should probably preface this whole show with the fact that right before I watched Total Recall, I watched 1986's The Eliminators, which includes a character called the Mandroid, who is like kind of a Terminator ripoff, but who has tank treads at different points of the movie. So maybe I lowered my expectations such with that movie that this movie seemed really, really good for a while. I don't know. I liked it, but yeah, there's some... They could have done more, but I'm glad they didn't, because if they had, not as many people would have liked it. I do find it a little weird that the original story was written in like 1966 and has like almost a Manchurian Candidate kind of edge to it from what I was reading. That's interesting. But I guess that was in the zeitgeist at the time.
Philip Dick also wrote Minority Report.
PKD.
Now that...
He wrote Minority Report.
Minority Report is a great futuristic movie.
Yeah. Well, it's like 30, 40 years after he wrote this.
Yeah. So,
again, like Westworld, Michael Crichton makes Westworld, and then he writes Jurassic Park. Yeah. So it's like he gets a 30-year do-over. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what Minority Report was for this. Like, he was like, okay. And actually, in his defense, he didn't write the script for this. It was just his idea that they used. So, when was that? Like 2003?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so the technology was there. I think if this movie was made, I mean, they did the remake with Colin Farrell, which technically it looks better and it feels better because the effects are there. But it's just not. It's not the same without Arnold.
The remake of this movie.
Yeah.
There's a remake of Total Recall.
Yeah,
there is.
Word.
I think I own it. I don't know, but you can probably borrow it. It's just it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I just bought it because it was in a lot of other movies that I bought.
Word.
Hey George.
Eventually, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
You remember last week when we were discussing Westworld, and you were like, "Yeah, robots," and I was like, "You've got an anti-robot bias," and you were like, "Oh, what if they just had like chips that went in people's minds that like changed how they thought and gave them memories and stuff?" You remember that?
Yeah.
We didn't know that you were going to say that, and we already had this movie planned. But I might have peed a little when you said that. I was so happy. So
that's funny.
In the latest edition of Be Careful What You Wish For, what do you think? Was this movie closer to what you could stand?
Yeah, definitely.
We're on the right path.
Definitely.
Up next, The Eliminators with Mandroid.
No.
It had some pretty cool practical effects, but the actual like Mandroid suit looked like foam rubber. Like the guy looked like Kano from Mortal Kombat 1.
I was just gonna say Kano. Yeah,
it was very
you sent
Kano.
me that picture.
Very
That's
silly.
funny. Like, ugh.
A lot of fun
I don't know how
practical
you do
explosions, though. Kaboom!
My meter goes off when I see like a picture like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching that ever. And Dan's like, bring it on.
Yeah, man, put it in my eyes. Why not?
Yeah, you can see the sunglasses lens in that makeup that they just put latex around. You can see it, but I'm gonna watch it anyway.
Put it in my eyes.
Put it in my eyes.
Not?
My name is not Quid.
Oh man.
Ay.
So hey, what are we gonna watch next?
So we're going to go a different route now. We've shown you enough action films for a while, I believe.
Okay.
But we are going to tie up a loose end that we've been doing 2 seasons of, and that is
okay.
What have we been pretty much covering?
What do you mean?
The giallo slasher
stabby stab.
Stabby stab.
Yeah.
So we're going to be bookending it with we
Halloween
started. No, we started with Psycho,
Mm-hmm.
and we will bookend it with Scream.
Okay.
We're gonna watch Scream, and you're gonna. What do you know about Scream, by the way? Before I say anything.
Now we're talking about 1980s Scream, correct? The one from 1980 that nobody's ever seen and isn't any good. That's the one, right?
Oh yeah, the one with Morgan Fairchild.
Is she in that? That'd be amazing. Who's in the original? I haven't ever seen the original Scream. I hear it sucks balls. Even I wasn't willing to watch it. Let's see. 1980s Scream.
There was an original Scream?
Well, it's just a movie that happens to be called Scream. It has nothing to do with
Yeah, we're not watching that.
whatever the movie ends up being. Scream Queens. I don't want.
Could you imagine
Scream
if
Queens.
I watched that movie by accident?
Oh my god, that's why we always tell
George
you
is-
the year, because it's like
He's gonna have that meme. I think I got the wrong Scream movie.
1981. Here you go.
81.
A group of
Who's in
friends
it?
on a rafting trip down a river stop at an old ghost town to spend the night. That doesn't sound so bad. It's
Yeah,
got
I
a guy
shouldn't do
named
that.
Pepper Martin in it.
Mm.
That's a fun name.
Sounds like they're doomed.
They're doomed. So what do you know about Scream? I'm sure you have
I
knowledge
know
of
about the
it.
mask.
Okay.
Like the Scream mask. I don't know. I think it's like I think the killer is kind of like a stalker, kind of like a preys on people. You know,
Yeah.
scares them, scares the shit out of them, maybe kills them. I'm not sure. All I know is the mask. Really.
Okay.
All right. Well, at that, we'll leave you here. We'll see you back in 2 weeks for Wes Craven's Scream. In the meantime, you can find us on Facebook.com/Remedial Film Pod. You can always find us at Twitter and Instagram as well, at Remedial Film Pod. And you can even email us, but don't email us. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Is there anything we need to tell him, Dan, or we
No, I think this one, I think you have enough knowledge now of the genre to pick up on all the
Enjoy
little
it.
hints and stuff that they throw for fan service. But I think you also now understand the formula enough that when they vary from it, you're going to be like, oh, I see what they did. And I
Okay.
appreciate it.
This is the payoff. This is your see what you how much you've been paying attention to the genre.
Yeah.
There will be
This
a
is
test.
that movie.
There will
There
be
will
a
be
multiple
test.
choice test.
Bring your number 2 pencil.
You should put together a real multiple choice test for me.
Oh God, I really should.
That would be awesome.
And I could take it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Scary movie? I don't know.
Okay. Well, definitive
What?
answer from George. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
I'm trying to think of like scary movies. I don't know. Are slashers supposed to be scary?
Yeah, they were at one point.
My favorite scary movie.
I'm really excited about this, by the way.
The
I'm
Notebook.
hiding it.
The Notebook.
The Notebook is
Yeah, it's
scary.
my
Yes.
fucking scariest movie.
Rachel McAdams, man, she'll do that to you.
Yeah.
Megan says that I did watch that other movie that I said I didn't watch. The Tom Cruise movie.
Top Gun.
Top Gun?
Yeah, she said I did. I watched it with her. She said.
No. Must not have had an impact on you. 'Cause
No.
most people know when they've seen that movie.
I love that. Cassie, I think that's the second time I've sung that on the show. I really dig that old crappy keyboard synth sound.